Ruminating. This is what we're going to be talking about today. Now, what is ruminating? It's when a thought becomes stuck in your head and you're thinking about it over and over and over again, and you can't seem to snap yourself out of it. Even if you're doing anything else in the day, that thought process is still in the back of your head, nagging you and consuming you. Ruminating isn't a diagnosis on its own. It's usually associated with anxiety and depression. It could also be found in very narcissistic relationships, which is something that I'm going to look at next week. But rumination itself is something that could become very debilitating to your everyday life, and it's something that we need to get a hold of and get control back, because at the end of the day, ruminating is just a thought in our own heads. So the minute we get control back, we're snapped out of the rumination phase. If you haven't been to my page before, welcome. I'm Hamasa. I look at mental and emotional well-being, as well as personal development and just day-to-day issues. Now, if this relates to you, please do subscribe to my page so that you're up to date with all my content. Now, rumination is something that a lot of us probably suffer from because most of us are overthinkers, unfortunately. But it's not just overthinking a certain situation. It's allowing rumination to take place for such a long time and become you that it is now a resent or something that you hold on to, and it becomes your sentiment towards situations. Let me give you an example of what rumination is. Now, if it's a bad thought process or something that had happened, an argument with someone, and then you spent the next 3-4 days overthinking this argument and all the things you could have said, what went wrong, what happened, why they said the things they said, why did this happen to you, why now, all these things. After those 3 days, you then build this resentment towards the person, and then more time goes by and you're holding this anger and bitterness because you've now built up this whole situation and thought over it so many times that you have this emotion towards this person, and most times they may not even know that you've turned it into such a big deal. So rumination could really draw wedges and isolate you and really get you deep into your thinking without it having any backing or real relevance to your present day. So all you're doing is you're holding yourself in the past, stagnant. For example, let's say you're babysitting someone and they like playing with fire. I mean, it could be this crazy child and they just like playing with fire. If they're doing that, you're obviously not going to allow them to do that. So if they're running around the house, burning everything up with a lighter, whatever, you're going to step in and you're going to stop it. You're going to do something about it. That's what it means to stop yourself from ruminating. Is a bad thought or a thought that's damaged you, affected you, changed your life to an extent, like your thought process, and therefore you're giving it so much time and importance, and this bad thought is coming to your head at all times and is just causing havoc, is distracting you from your day-to-day chores and issues and things that you need to deal with, is distracting you from your relationships, from the people around you, and you are just allowing this havoc to run around in your head. If that was to happen in the house and you were babysitting, you'd do something about it. It's the same theory here. You need to do something about it. You need to break the cycle. You need to stop this thought process entering your head and causing havoc. So how are you going to intervene? The first thing to do to stop this is to be mindful, to make yourself conscious that this is happening. Now, I know that it sounds like faff sometimes, and you hear this stuff and you're like, oh my God, how's this going to help me? But believe me, the reason it's repeatedly coming up in most of my videos and any other video that you watch on YouTube or anywhere else, when it comes to things like this, mindfulness is extremely important because it brings you back to your present moment, especially in the case of ruminating, because with ruminating, you're actually not in your present moment. Your head, your mind is somewhere else. It could be in the future, it could be in the past. Most times with ruminating is in the past. So when you're mindful, straight away, you're in the present. If you're in the early stages of ruminating, then things like hold on, how is this thought helpful to me right now? Or how is this relevant to my day? Now, every time you find yourself ruminating, remember that if you ask yourself these questions, you suddenly become aware that you're ruminating. And so you can bring yourself back to the moment. However, if you're slightly gone deeper and you're a little bit more stuck in your rumination, then when you overthink things and make yourself relive those situations over and over again, or feel those emotions twice over, because you're letting this thought process consume you, you then have physiological signs that show that you're ruminating. For example, fidgeting, shaking your leg, rocking back and forward, playing with your hair constantly, feeling anxious, feeling in your stomach, feeling sick, feeling nauseous, sweating, shaking. Things like that are signs of you overthinking and putting yourself in an anxious state. Now, if that becomes you, then make sure that you write these down. Because rumination is thoughts in your head. So instead of keeping them inside in your head, get them out. That's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to get this stuff away and out from us, these negative, toxic feelings and emotions. So write it down. Make a note of all the physiological changes that you notice in yourself and all the little habits that you do. And write them down. Then when you come out of this and you feel a little bit better, you can look back and you can notice and spot those signs, so that next time you start feeling like that, you know that it's coming. So when you've written them down, then write, what if this happens? What can I do? And again, this is where you apply your mindfulness tactics. So if it means listening to apps such as Calm or Headspace, or going on YouTube and watching meditation video, it means listening to music, going for a walk, getting some air, going grocery shopping, distracting yourself. Those things are all helpful things to bring you back to the present moment and make you aware that you're overthinking something that's actually not relevant to your day right now. Having said that, it's not all well said and done. It doesn't just work like that. You don't just snap out of rumination because you've brought yourself back. What it does do sometimes is that when let's say you go outside, just the same analogy as the child playing with the fire, the one you're babysitting. You may tell them off and they may take note of that and listen to you, but it doesn't mean that they will stop altogether, which is where it becomes complicated, because you might think that, oh, I've conquered this and now I've brought myself back and I'm okay. And then the next time that thought comes into your head again, you crumble because you didn't think it happened, and you feel like you've relapsed and you've taken 10 steps back and you start self-punishing. When this happens, you have to understand that the same way with the kid, you can tell them no, don't play with the fire again. The minute they get the opportunity, they might do it again. But make a habit of hushing your brain when it starts thinking like that. The same way as a child, if you keep disciplining them, then they will understand that this is wrong and I won't get away with this behavior, so let me just move on, not do this anymore. So you just need to train your brain to keep telling it off every time it goes off on tangent. Like, why are you thinking about that right now? How is that relevant to me? If you fall in the habit of doing this, your brain will understand that I won't get away with this thought process, and therefore I should stop doing this. But in some cases, that doesn't always work. And so if it keeps happening and you keep going back to that resent or sentiment towards someone, towards a situation, for example, if you're dealing with a bad relationship and it's like, oh, I'm unlovable because this person came into my life, they left me, I was left behind, I was neglected, and therefore something is wrong with me. I'm not worthy of love, and therefore every other person will keep doing this to me, so it's just me. When it gets to that and you can't, no matter how much you tell your brain to stop overthinking, it's not relevant, it's not present, and you're still there, then we need to reanalyze. And this is the flip side of ruminating. We need to reflect. And I'll tell you guys what the difference between them is and what to do when this is happening and why it's happening to you. Okay, so if you have this reoccurring thought and it's always there and it's kind of like frozen you, in your life out of fear. And recently I was speaking to someone and they were talking about they had a bad relationship, probably with a narcissist by the sounds of it, and they are now ruminating on this thought that it will always happen to me, I will always get hurt, I will always get left behind, and it's me, I'm the issue. You start self-blaming, you start taking things personally and believing that just because one person or two bad relationships came into your life and ruined you, the fault is in you. And you begin to not notice all the good in your life or all the love that you do have. If that's what's happening, then you need to reflect back and analyze as to why you're feeling like that. Because from my research, I came across this thing called secondary gain. So some people, when they're so stuck in their rumination and they don't want to snap out of it and they can't see any other way, it's a form of gain for you on a subconscious level. It's like a protective layer. For example, if you hold on to this ruminating thought of you being unlovable, your subconscious mind is kind of protecting you and stopping you from going out there and making yourself vulnerable to another relationship or another person that may come into your life and hurt you. And therefore is keeping you safe and protected and stagnant in the same place, but you're using it as a protective layer that, due to my experiences, because this is what happened, I don't want to put myself in harm's way, and therefore I'm unlovable, so it's just me, and this is how I am, and therefore I'm never going to find someone. That's a form of secondary gain out of allowing yourself to wallow in rumination for too long. Another example would be if you've had a fight with someone. Let's say you had a fight with a parent, and those words and those actions really hurt you. You're ruminating over them. You've ruminated for a long time. You've built up resent. And so instead of actually going out there facing the consequences or speaking to them and resolving it, you've now built up this thought process, and in a way it makes you, making you feel more righteous and right, that, oh my God, I would never do that to my child, and yet my parent did it to me. I'm like this, they're like that. And it makes you feel good in a way to put the blame on someone else and hold them accountable and hold this bitterness and resent and anger towards them, because you then feel like you were right. And so that's another secondary gain. But in the grand scheme of things, all you're doing, the other person may not even know that you feel this way about them. So really, it's not affecting them. They're getting on with their lives. It's you who's walking around and allowing this negative, toxic thought consume you, dictate your sentiment towards people, dictate your actions, how you live your life, because it's a layer of protection for you. And you are loving it because you're the victim. If this is what's happening, you need to snap yourself out of it immediately, because like I said, the only person that you're harming in this is yourself. So get curious. Look at it, see why, what am I gaining out of holding on to this thought process? What's really deep down making me stuck here? And then clean that up, deal with it, resolve it, face it, write it down, see how and where you went wrong, that you are holding this much anger towards someone else when they are really not affected by that you are. And the minute you start doing that, you will start looking at things, okay, well, I could get hurt again, but that's only 50% of it going wrong. What if I go out there and I meet someone that loves me for me? I am lovable. Look at the people around me. Look at my friends. Look at my family. Those two bad situations, that argument doesn't define me. I'm still capable. I know what I'm worth. And so it was a bad experience. What did I learn from it? So look at what you can and why you feel the way you do and what you can learn from it. And then make sure that you don't allow negative, toxic thoughts from the past affect your day-to-day now. A good way to figure out what it is that is holding you there is wake up and think about, okay, what if I didn't think this? What if I didn't feel this? What if my thought process was different? Would I do things differently? Would I still be stuck here? Would I still be fearful? Or would I feel and behave in a different way. And then that's when you can narrow it down to what it is that you're so fearful of. It's like, what would I do if I didn't think these things? Oh, I would be doing these actions. I'll be going out there, putting myself out, or speaking to my parent, or whatever that the issue is. And if you see that you would have done that if you didn't have this thought process, is that's where your issue is. You need to analyze, okay, this is what I'm fearful of. So try and look back, see what you're ruminating about and what it is that you're gaining from it, and then try and deal with that. I hope that you guys found this video helpful. And if you feel that this may help someone else, please do share it with them. Please like and comment on this video and subscribe to my page so that you're up to date with all my content. And next week, I'm hoping to look at rumination in narcissistic relationships. So join me, and I'll see you again next week. Thanks for watching. Mwah.